On Tuesday, we talked about this Minnesota fraud bombshell where members of the Somali community have run scam programs to take more than $1 billion from taxpayers through either fraudulent Feed the Hungry programs or fraudulent autism diagnoses and healthcare setups like that. Some of that money has made it to terrorists. Everyone's been talking about this all week. It's a crazy story. One thing that we didn't get into as much is the culpability for other Democrats. We talked a little bit about Tim Walz, but one person who hasn't gotten enough attention this week is Attorney General Keith Ellison. First, I want to go back to the New York Times on this. Here's a line that I thought was really important. No one was doing anything about the red flags. It was like someone was stealing money from the cookie jar and they kept refilling it. Somebody was refilling that cookie jar, and there's a very good chance it's people that knew that it was being taken out and used for fraud and bad purposes, but they wanted the political support from the groups that they were doing the fraud with. But here is Minnesota Congressman Tom Emmer.
Tim Walz and his Attorney General Keith Ellison, since they took office, they have not only not investigated the fraud, they have purposely stopped investigating it.
One thing that has been actually reported extensively over the last few years is Keith Ellison and his relationship with the fraudsters. Reminder, Keith Ellison met with the culprits behind the $240 million Feeding Our Future Minnesota fraud scheme before they were charged. And then he and his son took donations from them amid promises to deter the investigation. And we have audio of that meeting. That's from AG Hamilton 29, one of our good friends on X. We have that audio.
A group met with Attorney General Keith Ellison to complain about the Education Department refusing to approve their meal claims.
Well, let me tell you this. I'm very concerned about it. I don't run the agencies.
Absolutely. Now that is Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison meeting with the fraudsters and saying he's concerned about the investigation into the fraudsters. But let's pick back up.
What are they doing? Are they denying?
They stopped the program carte blanche. They said there's too many people being fed.
Now, they weren't being investigated for feeding too many people. They were being investigated for feeding fake people. And they'd been investigated for 8 months. So it's interesting that the state attorney general was unaware of that, but willing to meet with these people, telling them he'd look into it, but then also
just getting the inquiry from the AG is sometimes enough to make people knock it off.
Really important to understand what Ellison is saying there. In a conversation where members of the Minnesota Somali community who are involved in this fraud scheme are telling him they will give him campaign contributions and support, Ellison is also committing to help them by trying to shut down this investigation. He says there that he can send messages that will get people to knock it off and end this. Then 9 days later, Ellison cashed a campaign check from these fraudsters. That is about as nakedly quid pro quo as it gets in politics. So we have not heard the end of this fight.